This is a WTOK News 11 special report. Lauderdale County School District Bond Vote. This News 11 show takes a deep dive into a proposed $12.5 million career technical education center. Hear from educational and community leaders in exclusive interviews as they answer your voter questions before the October 3rd election. Here is your host, Emily Erickson.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this News 11 special report. The Lauderdale County School District is putting a $12.5 million bond issue in front of voters on October 3rd. This is all for a proposed state-of-the-art career and technical education center, which will be located where this building is behind me here. Tonight, WTOK News 11 is taking a deeper look into all of it. Many of you have submitted your questions to WTOK.com. That's why educational and community leaders are here in our studio to answer those questions live. But before we dive into all of that, let's first break down exactly who is eligible to vote and what this bond issue is about. So, who can vote within Lauderdale County on the bond issue? I'm going to have in front of me here an example of a voter registration card. So let's look at that there. Here is a basic card. If you check down at this section here where it says SCHD, if you have a number under that, that means that you can vote in this election. We'll take a closer look up here. SCHD. If you have SEP under that, it means you cannot vote in this election. So once again, if you look down there at your bottom right corner of your screen, SCHD, if you see a 1, you can vote. If you see SEP, you cannot vote. Later in the show, we'll give you a full breakdown of where voting precincts will be. All right, and let's take a closer look now what the bond issue is all about. The proposed Career and Technical Education Center at the heart of the vote looks to provide students in the Lauderdale County School District with a new kind of learning environment. It would be aimed at getting them prepared for the modern workforce. Through the CTE Center, students would have access to a diverse range of specialized programs and vocational training opportunities. These specialized programs would include advanced manufacturing, healthcare sciences, aviation, and culinary arts, just to name a few. So how would this be done? The proposed CTE Center would house cutting-edge facilities, state-of-the-art equipment, and specialized faculty. This would include modern classrooms, workshops, simulation labs, and many other unique spaces that promote creativity and critical thinking. It all looks to get students career ready with opportunities for internships, mentorships, and exposure to scenarios seen in the modern workforce. The state-of-the-art facility would be located on Highway 1180 in the former PV Service Warranty Building. You can see it here on your screen in this exclusive footage, courtesy of our very own Sky 11 drone. The school district says if the bond issue passes, they plan to complete construction and get equipment and furnishings for what would be a 60,000 square foot facility. And here to talk about that 60,000 square foot facility is CTE Director for the Lauderdale County School District, Mr. Rob Smith. Mr. Smith, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. You know, the school is looking to provide this for students. So let's look at the facility itself. We've got some renderings up here. This is what the outside of the building would look like, correct?
That's correct. This is the front entrance as you would see it from the road.
Okay.
And complete renovation of the outside of the building itself.
Because you guys do plan to use the actual PV building, the old PV building. So you've gutted the inside of it and prepared.
That's right.
Yep.
The deconstruction is done. The inside is gutted. Basically, the way it sits now, it's a bare shell of a building with the outside skin on it.
Sorry, it looks like we're having issues with your microphone. If you guys, now we're good. We're good now. We're good now. We apologize about that. Okay. So let's look at the next picture here. Another outside. Now, would this be the back side of the building or the side of the building?
This is the side, and this is actually where the buses will drop off. So students will actually enter from the side of the building through the door that you see here, with plenty of ADA accessibility for any students that may need that as well.
Right, and I'm standing in front of me, here's a bus coming in here. All right, now looking at the inside, give us a layout of what this spot would be.
This is one of the empty shops, you know, that it's not populated yet with equipment, but you can kind of get an idea of how big one of the shops may be.
Very open facility to fit all of these. Yeah,
this is either aviation or agricultural mechanics.
Okay, moving on to the next one now.
This is a shop with some of the equipment dropped in, certainly not specific, to what we're doing, but kind of gives you an idea with advanced manufacturing how it's going to look.
Absolutely. All right, and on to the next picture here. There we go. So it looks like these are more of the classrooms for different programs.
This is actually a 120-seat dining room facility that will be connected to the culinary program inside the center.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we have one or two more here. All right, this is the last one. So is this just kind of as you're walking into the building itself?
Yes, as students are coming in to the hallway, this is the main hallway that will separate our programs, and you can see it's a very open concept as well.
And going back into a hallway here.
Yes, hallway all the way down. A lot of your trades classes will be on one side, and more of your academic, like teacher academy, that sort of thing, will be on the other side.
Super fascinating. All right, let's turn now to some questions submitted to the WTOK website. We'll start with Clay Garrett of Meridian, who asks, were local contractors, plant managers, etc., conferred with to verify trades needed? If so, who are they? And these are for the programs here, so
absolutely.
What's your answer to that?
So the programs that we put in are from needs of the community. It's also from workforce data that's been collected across the state. But I know we don't have a lot of time, but some of the main programs, I can just give you a quick example. Energy is one that we're going to put in that has not been done in this area. As a matter of fact, we're going to be one of the first in the state to put it in. But Mississippi Power has been a part of writing that curriculum. A&B Electric has been a big part of that conversation.
So you guys have been having conversations with all these local companies.
Absolutely.
And trying to stay local and seeing what the needs are here.
In aviation and advanced manufacturing, Lockheed Martin's been a part of that conversation. The Ag Power, Kubota, Davis Tractor has been a part of that conversation as well.
Awesome. All right, moving on to the next question. Pat Risch of Tumsuba asks, I understand that they will be having programs that duplicate what Meridian Community College currently has. Many high schools and other areas have co-op agreements with their local community colleges. Why do we have to have duplicate programs?
Well, the thing is, they're not duplicate programs.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're bringing programming a little further back down. Matter of fact, we've created one of the best dual credit scenarios in the state of Mississippi with the cooperation of Meridian Community College. It's time for us to take it to the next level. Our desire is to create a seamless pathway of a student going into a particular pathway, have training with us, and go on to post-secondary education with a seamless pathway all the way through.
So they're just basically preparing them for these programs to get a little bit of a head start. It's not necessarily duplicating, it's just, look, you're getting a fresh start on this, a first look, and then heading into the next big step once they go off to college.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much, Rob, for being here with us tonight and giving us all these answers on the facility itself. Thank you again.
Very much.
Well, News 11 has not only been gathering your questions surrounding this vote, we've also been gathering information regarding how this vote could impact your taxes by sitting down with the Lauderdale County Tax Assessor's Office. If the bond issue passes, your millage rates will increase around 3 mills, according to Tax Assessor James Rainey. Now, this year, your property taxes increased by less than $2 per $100,000 based on your assessed value. But the Tax Assessor's Office says next year in 2024, that number will increase if the bond issue passes.
The school board increased the millages for this year to cover this bond issue to start with. So this all goes to the school board. The Board of Supervisors have to maintain what they request. They have no choice. They either take it out of their budget or a millage has to apply, and most of the time it's always the millage that the school board done. So I want to make sure that's well understood. The school board raised the millage this year, period.
This year it's only going up $1.40. Well, next year, if they get the bond approved, they're looking at approximately 3.15 mills, which equates to, on a $100,000 house, $31.50 per year.
And to find out the assessed value of your home, you can visit their website, lauderdalecounty.org. Well, coming up, we'll be speaking with Lauderdale County Superintendent Dr. John Marcaine to get answers regarding tax increases. He will also be answering questions you, our viewers, submitted directly to WTOK.com. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back in, everyone. We are now joined by Dr. John Marcaine, who is the superintendent of the Lauderdale County School District. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump right into it. You know, before the break, we talked with Lauderdale County Tax Assessor's Office, who went over millage increases, those tax increases.
Right.
So could you give a little bit of insight into, if this bond issue passes, how it would affect taxpayers in Lauderdale County?
Sure. I think everybody knows that the reason we have a bond election is to really decide if this is something the community wants us to move forward with. It's not something that we can do arbitrarily. We have to ask the voters to say this is something that we believe in and that we're willing to financially support. Obviously, the district each year prepares an annual budget. We submit that annual budget, and we submit a money amount. We don't raise millage. We ask for a money amount to operate. Our normal operating budget, goes with the 55 mil cap that people are familiar with, and another 3 in debt service. That's what we're capped to by state. So anything additional that we need to large capital projects, anything like that, does require a bond to be passed, a referendum, and that's what we're asking the people of Lauderdale County to consider.
And we're going to now turn to some questions from the public. Speaking of about the bond issue itself, Tullis Johnson from Collinsville asks, when the bond is paid off, will our taxes go back down? How long is the bond, the loan? And does the school system have the funds to operate and maintain the facility once the project is completed? Yeah,
it's a great question. It's a 15 to 20 year bond is what we've been advised by our bond attorney. When we get to the end of a bond, the district would have to come before the voters again to try to move forward with an extended bond. We don't foresee that right now. Really, we're worried about trying to get this facility moving for our students. We just think the opportunities are there, are great. And it's like any household. Once you accrue new payments or things that you work on in your home that you know that you have to financially support, you find a way. We're looking at a lot of movement from other campuses to this facility, and so we're looking to continue to the upkeep as best we can, and we'll find a way.
And I'm looking at just some of my notes here, and then we'll get to the next question. Someone had submitted, I note that the election is not open to those in the city limits. There are a few exceptions, and we'll break that down later in the show. With that being the case, will taxes of those only that are eligible to vote go up with the tax increase? And will this affect the county and Meridian city limit residents?
Yeah, I would strongly suggest reach out to Ms. Donna Gill's office downtown to really verify those, because I definitely don't want to give any tax information or guidance to anyone that may be misleading or incorrect. So I would advise those that have questions to double check down there. They do a great job. Obviously they've been very busy, and we appreciate their help in this, but I would just ask them to verify with them.
Absolutely. All right. And staying on the topic of funding, Drew Calhoun of Meridian asks, why is more funding needed? Can the project's budget be reduced to accommodate the money already allocated? And I know that there was another question of, what happens with this original $8 million that was passed, and if it doesn't pass, what happens?
Yeah, so can it be done without it? We have an operating budget, and that's what I said. We have an operating budget that we request each year, and then also a debt service budget. Again, that's capped at 55 and 3 mils by state statute, and that really allows us to try to maintain what we have. We obviously have a lot of campuses. That helps us, keep roofs on buildings. It helps us get parking lots. It helps us secure buses and to operate and maintain those facilities. So any large capital project requires a bond, or you have to ask the public if this is something that they deem important and or for the future of our students, for the future of our county. So we have to look at that as ways that to operate or to move forward in operations and construction and capital projects outside the normal operating monies, because as you know, the state of Mississippi hasn't truly funded our operating monies through MAEP and probably once in 20 years. So we operate already on a 10% clip of what state law asks to be appropriated annually. So I think we do a really good job of creating great schools, A school districts on a C district budget.
And then, you know, because like you said, finding other avenues to get this money. Now, will the county lose the millions of dollars already allocated to other projects, or could other projects still be completed if this doesn't pass?
Yeah, so the money's in the normal operating budget. Obviously, we've got things planned that we're going to do on each campus, but the money appropriated by the legislature, that $8 million, we've got somewhere close to $6.5 million of that left after fees and demo and permits and really moving forward with this project. So the question comes up, what would happen in lieu of, you know, the bond not passing? Well, that's where we had to kind of step back, you know, from the table and analyze what we've got, what programs could be put in, what construction could happen in a time frame. But ultimately, I think the short answer is delay and major cutbacks to what we want to do.
And because about 1.5 million of it has already been used.
That's
for
correct.
The inside of the building itself, the old PV building where it's going to be, it's been gutted out. So
Correct.
just going to continue that construction
Yeah,
process.
yeah. So you know, you'd have to look back and see the, you know, the construction cost, which I think we've estimated about $315 a square foot commercial. You know, I think we've got a pretty good deal there. But you know, we'd have to kind of sit back, look at where we are financially, see what would be allowable. But I think you just have to ask, you know, do we want to delay? Do we want our students not to have these opportunities sooner rather than later? And I think if you talk to most parents that send their kids to Lauderdale County School, they see this as a great opportunity and they want their kids to have access to it as soon as possible.
Yep. All right, let's turn now to News 11's Anna Williams for more questions submitted by our viewers. Anna?
Yes, thank you, Emily. So our first question, it's kind of a two-part question. Why can't it be held with the general election? And why are we voting to spend money on new facilities while some basic necessities are being neglected in existing buildings?
All right, thank you, Anna. And that question actually comes from Jeremy Metter of Meridian there. So I'm going to follow up with that question because there was a little vague on, you know, what actual buildings. We did get another question submitted along this line saying, why spend money on a new facility when existing facilities are in disrepair? Clarkdale, where our 3 kids graduated from, sustained damage in April 2022 that has still not been repaired and is not expected to have been completed for another year. Shouldn't the priority be spending money on what the district has now instead of building new or updating buses with air conditioning? And that came from Alex Biddles.
So I'll take that in 2 parts, I guess.
So that was a long question.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll break down the first part there of why can't it be held with the general election.
Sure. So we basically came to the table and listened to experts that provided major two key points. One is from our architect. We're really looking at construction time, looking at lead times that we see, really wanting to have a January 25 soft opening to where we can get as much as we can in there and then really start ironing out those details. Basically, if we did not get the results of the election in the time that we need them, which was prior to the general election, we would not be able to put out the project for bid prior to the end of 2023.
Now, what is that deadline? Because we've got an October 3rd vote and the general election is November 7th. So
Correct.
is it strictly between that month there? What's the deadline?
Yeah, so the point is, once we know the results of the election, it takes 7 to 10 days to certify the results, and so then we've got to put that out for bid. And if you're dealing with state contracting and state procurement laws, there's a lot of timelines you got to meet. You got to put it out for bid. So in order for us to meet that deadline, we need to get that out for bid. And if we had waited to the general election date, we would not meet that timeline according to the architect. But I do want to talk about the second part of that.
Yes, so they're pretty fast. Let's get to that.
The second part of that is also looking at the bond itself, because we qualify for something called bank qualified loans that if you remain under a 10 million mark, then you're able to qualify for lower interest rates on when you sell the bonds. In order for us to meet that date and secure a lower interest rate on the bonds, we have to sell that 10 million or less prior to the end of the calendar year. The only way we could do that as well was to have an election and the results sooner. Again, if we waited till November 8th, we would not have the results and would not be able to sell those bonds prior to the end of the calendar year.
Okay. We're actually running low on time, so I'm going to ask this question real quick. Someone asked, will there be designated parking areas for voters, because this will take place at schools, not at their actual voting precincts, and we'll go over that later in the show. And then what's the reasoning for having it in the schools versus the precincts, just real quick?
Sure. So once the board collected all this information and we decided to move forward with the special election, well, then you have to decide which precincts you're going to have it at. And so there was talk about one single precinct, and then the board was adamant that no, we wanted to have one in each zone. Again, when you talk about going from 24 to 4, once you know you have to have a special election, which we had decided to do, then you have to decide what's the locations. The more locations, the more expense, the more cost. And I know there's been some talk about the cost of the special election, but I want to go back to that previous point. The cost savings of the lower interest bond outweighs the cost of the special election. So you're having to look at a lot of different factors, but we felt at the end this was the best way to move forward.
All right, Dr. Kane, Superintendent, Lauderdale County School District, we have run out of time here, but coming up after the break, we'll be sitting down with President of Meridian Community College to talk about the impact of these career and technical centers as students enter college. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back after the break. All right, welcome back, everyone. We are joined with Dr. Huebner, Dr. Tom Huebner, President, Meridian Community College. But before we get to Dr. Huebner, wanted to let you reiterate, ran out of time.
Sure.
Lots of people in the community asking, why push for this new project when there's a project such as the Clarkdale school situation after they were hit by a tornado and that building still needs to be fixed?
It's a fair enough question. We've been working with our architect, insurance, really wanting to make sure that we could repair Clarkdale to a level that really needs to be repaired too. There was a lot of early on talks about, would we repair it back just to get it back to a 1970 standard? We said that wasn't good enough, and unfortunately that's taken some time. It really has, and we're going to go back to new standards. We're going back to new code to where it's a building that will last, it will be safer, and it's what our kids deserve.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kane. All evening we've been talking about this proposed Career and Technical Education Center for the county, for the school district. So the CTE Center, for students while they're in high school and then once they graduate and go off to college. So shedding some light on how that helps them with the future. We have a question for you, Dr. Huebner. Drew Calhoun of Meridian asks, is there evidence to show a program like this positively impacts students, the local economy? They're asking if it impacts both of those there. So if you could give us a quick answer.
No, I mean, absolutely. When students are training for the skilled trades, they're getting jobs in the local economy. We have a multi-year study actually that was conducted by NSPARC, which is a strategic planning and data organization affiliated with Mississippi State that looks specifically at Meridian Community College and our programs, and there's absolutely no doubt that it contributes positively to the local economy in the millions.
Yeah, all right, thank you so much, Dr. Huebner. You heard it there on their future. The school district has been hosting community meetings to provide information and answer questions from the public. If you've missed the ones they've had so far, no worries. There are 2 more coming up. We'll get into those. The next community meeting is set to take place this Tuesday, September 26th at the Clarkdale High School Gym at 6 p.m. The final meeting will happen just 2 days later on Thursday, September 28th at West Lauderdale Elementary School Gym at 6 p.m. as well. Now, looking ahead to the day of the election, you can cast your vote on Tuesday, October 3rd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's important to note these will not take place at your regular voting precincts. You're going to have to look at your county precinct number and location to determine which of the 4 schools in the district you will vote at. Let's take a look at those now really quick. Okay, if you are in Bailey, Center Hill, Collinsville, Martin, or Sicalina, and those voting precinct numbers on there, you can double check with your card. Those are going to be at West Lauderdale Elementary. Going to keep moving here. If you are in 17, Causeyville, Odom, Vinville, or Wynot in Mount Gilead, you're going to be voting at Southeast Middle School. And then the next group, if you're in the Landing on 39, New Lauderdale, Delville, East Lauderdale, Marion, Kewanee, Russell, or Toomsuba, you're going to be voting at Northeast Middle School. And finally, if you are in Pickard, Clarkdale, Meehan, South Nellyburg, or 0, once again, these are the precinct numbers that'll be on your card there, you will be voting at Clarkdale Attendance Center. A lot of information here. If you've missed this live report, we're going to have it on our website, WTOK.com. We do want to thank you all for joining us for this News 11 special report. Be sure to cast your vote on Tuesday, October 3rd. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Here at News 11, we'll keep you informed every step of the way. Have a great evening, everyone.